Hello and good morning. Good morning. Today I'll be discussing the embedded text review, and this is going to be my submission. I'm going to be discussing about the hunger crisis. Around the globe, children are not just starving, they are being starved. The impact of the multiple conflicts and now war in Ukraine is creating a perfect storm for the world's most vulnerable girls and boys. Adverse effects of climate change, such as droughts, floods, extreme storms, and unpredictable weathers, have destroyed crops, incomes, and leading to massive locust swarms in certain countries. COVID-19 pandemic aftermaths, lockdowns and economics, travels, and trade distributions have harmed incomes to global price hikes of food and other basic necessities, such as food, water. Meanwhile, other conflicts in multiple places around the world are unrooting millions and destroying homes, lives, and livelihoods. On top of this, the impact of the war in Ukraine, the wheat basket of the world, it's global, it's grain. Exports have been choked off, reducing emergency food and aid to refugees, driving up food prices everywhere. So while the wealthy world grapples, man, with the living costs of crisis, the Earth's most vulnerable people are struggling with just hunger right now, starvation, and the looming debt of famine. So right now, 4 times more people are enduring claustrophobic conditions of starvation compared to just 15 months ago. It's about a year. The situation is worsening in many hunger hotspots around the globe. Climate change is also a threat multiplier. The World Bank reports about 130 million additional people will be published into poverty and pushed because of climate change by 2030. Climate-related shocks and rises exacerbate inequalities between children in terms of health, education, and long-term development outcomes. Threaten to livelihoods and competition is scarce for resources triggered by changing climate put millions of children at increased risk of violence. Women and girls are particularly vulnerable to climate change due to pre-existing gender inequalities and social norms. 45 million people worldwide who are currently at extreme risk of famine, and almost 21 million children are one step away of facing starvation, land degradation, and while almost 160 million children are living in areas of high-level drought, while high actions of climate change, droughts will continue to intensify. Land degradation and desertification will continue to accelerate, and the hunger crisis will be further exacerbated. Climate change is having severe humanitarian consequences as well, more frequent and severe natural hazards, I would say, and amplifying our high levels of humanitarian needs globally. By 2015 or by 2050, we're going to need, the World Bank estimates, there are additional 143 million people across the sub-Saharan desert, South Asia, Latin American countries. Could also internally displaced as a result of slow onset impacts as climate change, including water stress, crop failure. For the past 70 years, when disaster strikes like this one did with COVID-19 pandemic, it's no different. We're aspiring in every country. We work in one form or another. Our global COVID-19 response has already exceeded our initial goal to provide targeted support at least to 72 million people that were vulnerable, and we're continuing to focus on the families facing pre-existing vulnerability and fragility, while children are most at risk. Conflict-affected contexts, urban slums, the devastation aftershocks of the crisis are putting at least 30 million children at risk, while 85 million children are most likely to experience violence. And the price shocks of rising food are just threatening too the lives of thousands of children. In 2021, we saw the beginning of an parallel global hunger crisis driven by conflict, change, and the ongoing impacts of COVID-19, even as COVID-19 measured eased out worldwide. The lingering effects of the pandemic continues to be felt by struggling families in the poorest countries and continuing to increase social economic disparity across the world. Since the outbreak and conflict in Ukraine in February 2022, the spiraling fuel and fertilizer prices have compounded these factors globally and are leaving people even further behind in humanitarian crisis. The Global Humanitarian Overview of 2022, released today by the United States Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, when 274 million people could be in the need of humanitarian assistance next year, with the world currently battling the world hunger in this century. This is up from 235 million people in 2021, so 168 million people in 2020. So one of the main causes of humanitarian needs is food insecurity, with the number of people at risk of famine rising 60% before the COVID-19 pandemic. Currently, an estimated 45 million people across the 46 countries are at risk of famine, up from 27 million in 2019. At the time of the Global Humanitarian Overview in 2022, around December 2021, 274 million people in humanitarian assistance and protection. This means that 1 in 29 people worldwide need humanitarian assistance. So that can be just anybody. Could be somebody in our class, maybe. A significant increase from 1 in 33 in 2020 and 1 in 45 in 2019, which were already the highest figures in the decades. The UN and partner organizations are aiming to assist 183 million people, and most in need are 30 across countries, 7 regions, and requires a total of 41 billion to do so. So people in need right now, there's about 325 million, and I think they're targeted at 216 million. So the overall funding is going to be 51 billion, but the total funding received is at 22 billion. I apologize. So I think that we're making a goal, and we're trying to help out the countries, and I hope that we can help out as many countries as we can. Thank you, Professor.